All right, welcome back. If you are a subscriber, and I appreciate it if you are, using my iPhone 10R XR to record this, just so you know. It's kind of on a little tripod with a little Manfrotto gripper thing that attaches to the tripod. And if you see any blood at the bottom of my eyelid there, looks like I've got a burst blood vessel or something. Never had that happen before, but anyway, if I pull my eyelid down, it's really super gross and you don't want to see that. So today, I just want to talk real quick about, try to make it quick, I usually don't do it, the Fuji X-T4 with the 16 to 80 kit lens, that I bought recently. And I'm going to send it back while it's still in the return period. And the reason is, for one, Nikon came out with that Z5, which I didn't expect. And I've always been wanting the 24 to 200 lens, and you can get that in a kit and save like $400 off of that lens if you buy it with a kit. So that's one thing. But I was more than willing to keep the X-T4. But first thing is, if you've seen my previous videos, I think it was 2 videos back, I had a problem with the power on the first body I had. It was a silver body, and with the power switch, it just wouldn't come on. You'd turn the power on, and it would just be dead. It wouldn't do anything. You had to take the battery out. And it did that when I was on vacation, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. You'd be using it, everything's fine, turn it off. A few minutes later, half hour later, could be the next day, turn it on, and it just won't power up. So I sent it back and got a replacement, and which is the one I have now. And I hadn't had any trouble with it. It's firmware 1.02, which is the firmware in there right now. And it may have been a firmware problem because there was something in the notes for the latest firmware release. I'll try to walk over here, you might see bright sun on my face. I had the firmware updated on the new body I got, and everything's fine with that. I didn't have any trouble with the the locking up again on this new body I have. So I think it looked better under the trees back there. So I haven't had any trouble with that power up issue. But the thing I still have some trouble with, and I don't know what this is and I'm talking about single point autofocus. I use AFS, so just a single point autofocus. It's not continuous focus, it's not tracking, but just sometimes, or too often, I'll focus on something. Let's say it's like a ornamental grass seed head. So you've got several seed heads from the ornamental grass sticking up, nothing else around it, nothing behind it, nothing in front of it. Really easy target. And I take a shot and I look at it later on the computer, zoom in, try to find the focus point. And I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's in focus in that general area, but I'm looking, closer, and I just don't see that it's sharp anywhere. And I don't know if it's an issue with the lens. This is the second 16 to 80 I had because I totally replaced the kit. And so that's probably one of the biggest issues. And there's still the issue with the X-Trans filter and Adobe Photoshop Lightroom not being the best at editing those files, because if you're a Fuji shooter or you've had experience with that, you know that the Capture One is a lot better at editing those X-Trans files from the Fuji cameras. And while I'm fine with it, it's not an issue. I'm totally content with how the files look overall. But if you zoom in, you see the detail is just not there like you would have in like a Nikon Z6, Z7, or some other non-X-Trans, just plain old bare sensor, bare type filter on the front of the sensor. So just a combination of a few little things, and just overall I think it made more sense to keep 2 bodies with the same lens mount. And in this case, full frame lens mount. I had the Z50, which is actually a great camera. If you watch my previous videos about the Z50, it's a much better camera than anybody said it was. The only issue with that is it's APS-C, and you do just have a couple kit lenses, which are really excellent optically. They're super sharp, really excellent lenses. But they're APS-C lenses, and if you put one of the full frame lenses on it, first of all, they're more expensive, and it's just going to be a crop in. But anyway, just in general, it makes more sense for me to keep the 2 bodies with the same lens mount if I'm going to keep two cameras. And for whatever reason these days I just like to have two cameras. And I don't really want to try to get into justifying myself for the haters out there that maybe they're in love with Fuji or Sony or whatever brand it is. I've used them, a lot of different brands, and I've enjoyed a lot of those cameras. And the thing is, I enjoy photography, and I love new technology, and so I'll try stuff out sometimes, thinking that this might be my next D700, which is the camera that I love the most out of all cameras that I've used so far, except for the Z7. The Z7 is kind of like my Nikon D700 replacement. Finally, I had the D700 for about 3.5 years, maybe 4 years, and it was just an outstanding camera, very durable. Everything about it just worked really well, and that's kind of the way the Z7 is with me. And so I think the Z5 would kind of be the same, and it's different enough to make it interesting. It's a 24 megapixel camera or sensor rather than the 45.7 in the Z7. And apparently it's not the same sensor that's in the Z6. It's not the BSI sensor, not the backside illuminated. Speculation that maybe it's the D750 sensor, don't really know. But if it is the D750 sensor, I've had that camera before, and it's an outstanding sensor. I got tons of dynamic range, and the files are really beautiful. For editing in Lightroom, I'll take a walk back here and just kind of go back to where I was. So, don't hate me for switching away from Fuji. It's a great camera that it's fun to use. That's the thing about Fuji, and that's why I keep coming back to it sometimes. I buy a Fuji camera because they're fun to use, and they're really beautiful cameras. And some of the colors you can get out of those, especially if you want to shoot JPEG, which I usually don't. iPhone doesn't really have good dynamic range, does it? If you do that, it's a little better instead of a totally blown out sky. But so the Fuji cameras, I'll find myself interested in them. I tried the X-T30, and that's when I learned about that excellent sensor in there. And that's the same one in the X-T4. It's really an outstanding image sensor. I just wish they'd take the X-Trans filter off of it like they do the GFX bodies. The medium format cameras that Fuji has. Let's get the exposure better here. Try to find something in the background. It's a little better. Still like super blown out back there, like totally white. But so anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'm just rambling on here, but thought I'd give a little update about what's going on. And it seems a little crazy that I've had the X-T4 for probably a little over a month, but since I had that first one back up out of the sun for less than a month, I was in the return period, and that's one that had the power problem, so I returned it, which was probably fixed by the firmware anyway. But anyway, so I returned that, bought a new one to replace it, so it was just kind of an even swap. And so I've had this one for less than a month, and it's in the return period, and I'll just get a stored credit. And when the Z50 is available to order, well, actually I'll go ahead and pre-order, but as soon as I get my stored credit with B&H, I'll just go ahead and place the pre-order for the Z50 with the 24-200. And that's the other thing, is the 24-200. I've been really wanting that lens for the Z7, but now I'll be able to use that with the Z5, and I think it's something $400 less if you buy it as a kit. So you buy a Z5 with the 24-200 instead of $900. It's costing almost $1,000. It's somewhere you're paying really closer to like $600 for it. So that's what I'll be doing. And sorry to disappoint anybody if somebody really wanted to see me keep using the Fuji, but again, I love photography and I love technology, and sometimes you just feel like switching. In this case, I've switched around a little too much because it didn't really work out the way I expected it to or wanted it to with the Fuji camera. And that's where I am now. So we'll get the Z5 as soon as I can. Probably take a little over a week for the X-T4 to get shipped back to B&H and get the credit for that. And then I can finally order the Z50, and it's supposed to be sometime in August. Hopefully it won't be delayed, but I don't know when it'll actually ship, and I'll be kind of behind as far as being in line for it, because I'm ordering it, a few weeks, 3-4 weeks after it had been announced, and I'm sure anybody that wanted it, you know, they've already got their pre-order in, and I'll be kind of at the back of that line. So as soon as I get my credit, I'll get it ordered. But so that's where I'm at, and I'm not crazy. I'm just, like I said, I enjoy photography and enjoy the cameras, and if you guys switch around too, I don't see any problem with that. You know, just I'm obviously taking a lot of really nice images with them. You check my galleries, I'll put the links in for down below in the description, and you can see what I've done with the cameras. And you know, I fully intend to use them and have fun with them, and that's what I do. And sometimes I switch around a little too much, but in this case I'm not really losing anything. It's kind of an even swap. That's the other nice thing about it. You get the a brand new Z5 body plus the 24-200, kind of an even swap. It's about the same price, $2,200, compared to the X-T4 with the 16-80. That was about the same price. So now I've got a full frame body as a backup to my Z7, same lens mount, and I get the lens that I want at a $400 discount or so. So it's kind of a win-win for me, I think. So that's what I'll be doing. So anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on for a few, and hopefully I'll have 2 cameras now for the 2-3 more years and not switch around. I think that'll be the case. So we'll see what happens. All right, goodbye.